Good afternoon, everyone. Today is March 17th, and this is Conversations from Stritch. Really glad to be back after taking a week off last week for spring break. I hope everybody had a wonderful spring break. Our conversation today is going to be with one of our coaches, but we had so many teams spread out all over the country to do their athletics, and of course, lots of our students, faculty, and staff that were able to take some time away, get rejuvenated, have a little time in the sun, though the weather wasn't, horrible here. I was down in Texas, so it's better down there. I also want to say that it's amazing to me that as we wrap up this week, starting next week, we only have 6 more weeks of classes and then finals. That feels like the year has just flown by. And it's a great time of year filled with so many celebrations of so many people on this campus. As everybody knows, we have lots of senior nights. We do celebrate employee anniversaries at the end of the year. We have celebration of scholarship. We have the senior art show. We'll have our last play for some of our students. So much going on, as well as, of course, as we'll talk more about later, the championships for both our winter sports and our spring sports that'll be coming up. So it's an exciting time of the year. And of course today, and I was mocked, I want to just admit this, I don't have my green tie on, but I do want to say happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. So as always, I'm joined by our provost, Dr. Christopher Sent. We're excited to be back, and Chris has some updates in terms of other celebrations to celebrate on campus.
Yes, hello everyone, great to be with you. And yeah, it is the time of year for celebrations, and I know we'll be over the next several weeks bringing in a lot of awardees, student awardees, commencement speakers, and so on. And we really look forward to hearing from so many of our accomplished members of our community. So a lot going on this week and into the future. The Lewis University Institute for Advancement of Catholic and Lasallian Education sponsored its 7th annual Lasallian Colloquium this week on Monday and Wednesday. This year's theme was "To Dream is Our Way Forward," and the keynote address was delivered by Dr. Michael Boyle, the superintendent of the Joliet Diocesan Catholic Schools. Congratulations to everyone who made that incredible event possible. So one thing maybe that's not obvious is that it was virtual, and it included a lot of our own students in education as well as a lot of local teachers who teach in the diocesan schools in the area. But because it was virtual, it was also attended by many Lasallian teachers from all over the world, from Africa and South America and the Philippines and so on. So it was just wonderful to see that large community brought together by our efforts here from our center. On February 26th, a group of Lewis nursing students assisted recent nursing alumnus Montrese Brown, who was providing health education and screenings through Riverwalk Homes in Joliet. The health fair was held at St. Peter's Lutheran Church and also provided COVID-19 vaccines and food from the Salvation Army and Northern Illinois Food Bank. So again, our nursing faculty and students have contributed so much over the last 2 years and beyond, and that's just another example of how that's built into the culture of our nursing program, and it's just wonderful work. Today is the final day of the art exhibition by artist Benjamin Calvert in the Brent and Jean Wadsworth Family Gallery. Reception and gallery talk will take place tonight from 7 to 9. So I probably shouldn't admit this, but I'm going to go to the volleyball for 1 hour that you'll announce that is at 6 o'clock, and then sneak out and go watch Benjamin Calvert give his talk. His passion for nature is reflected in his use of wood blocks to create relief prints on paper and canvas. Congratulations to Dr. Ibrahim Masioglu, whose study titled "Reactive Load Balancing Heuristics for High Performance Distributed Content Delivery Networks" was accepted for presentation and publication by the Society of Advancement of Information Systems 2022 conference. Dr. Masioglu is a professor of business analytics and chair of the Department of Accounting, Business Analytics, Economics, and Finance. Congratulations to Dr. Jamil Mustafa, Professor of English Studies and Director of Literature and Language, who presented a paper at the annual North American Victorian Studies Association conference. on March 3rd. His paper was titled Queer Orientalism, Arthur Conan Doyle's Gothic Fiction. And then finally, many congratulations to Dr. Tennille Allen, Chair and Professor of Sociology at Lewis, who co-authored an article in Footnotes, a magazine of the American Sociological Association, titled Regional Spotlight on Visualizing Black Chicago Lived Experiences. And also, Dr. Allen was a discussant at the 2021 American Sociological Association annual meeting for a session called Resilience During Multiple Epidemics, Centering Black Women and Girls' Experiences and Responses to COVID-19, Gun Violence, and Police Violence in Chicago. So wonderful work by three amazing faculty members here at Lewis, making great contributions. So we'll move on to athletics.
Yeah, so, and I do want to say, Chris, I think it's, it's worth just noting, because I think it describes this transition between what you're talking about, what I'm talking about. Yes, we sometimes go to something for 45 minutes or an hour, but that only speaks to how many exciting things are happening on this campus on any given day. So, we could, anybody that's a member of our campus, could attend oftentimes a lecture or a poetry reading, an art exhibit, and an athletic event on almost any given night of the week. And that makes for an amazingly rich campus. So that you're going to only be able to go for the first hour just speaks to that there's lots of things going on. So, and I plan on doing the same. So athletically, as we were saying, just so much going on. So men's volleyball plays tonight against McHenry, 6 o'clock, so a little earlier start than sometimes. So if you normally think it starts at 7, make sure you get over to Neil Carey by 6 o'clock, playing against McHenry. And then we also travel down to McHenry on Saturday for men's volleyball, so play them twice this week. Men's tennis competes at Wheaton tomorrow afternoon. Women's bowling is down at my alma mater, one of my alma maters, down at Vanderbilt this weekend on Saturday. So exciting that our women are playing against Vandy, and hopefully we walk away with a win there. Women's golf competes also this week. They're playing against in the spring intercollegiate in Kentucky on Saturday. Baseball against Purdue Northwest on Saturday and Sunday. Softball against Indianapolis on Saturday and Sunday. And then women's lacrosse, and we're talking a lot about lacrosse today. So women's lacrosse hosts Davenport here tomorrow afternoon and Findlay at noon. So if you've never seen a lacrosse match, come out and watch the women tomorrow afternoon at 4. So still dealing with COVID, Chris. So a lot less of it, which is great. But we still have some things to add to people's knowledge about what's going on campus.
Yeah, so just a few things on COVID, and we'll give the usual update around the numbers. The cases per 100,000 is 73 as of Tuesday. That keeps us in the orange zone. That's actually been somewhat flat over the last few weeks. Positivity ratio is still going down to 1.8. And the new highly recommended metric that the CDC recommends is what they now call community level, that really measures the impact on hospitals in the region. And our Will County level is low. That is the lowest it can be. And actually the entire state of Illinois is in the same category. So we're very comfortably in that low area. We've had 5 positive cases last week, 2 so far this week. Many students have been testing. Residential students are required to test this week, and so we're still getting those test results back, but so far the initial results have been very, very low positivity rate. Our vaccination rates are here, up to 67% in Will County, 77% of people over 18, and our community number remains at 91%, with 96% reporting. Still getting some new students enrolling this week, as it's the beginning of a new 8-week term, and so we're still getting some more information from people about their vaccination status who are coming to Lewis for the first time this week. Couple reminders of our policies that are in place. Face coverings are required only in classrooms, labs, and other identified locations that would be identified with signs. The booster status update requirement was yesterday, and so we're processing a lot of those people submitting, uploading to the app, the booster status. And we'll have, we'll follow up with people we haven't heard from as time goes by, and we're able to, take stock of all the updates that we've received in the booster. The reminder that the booster status, the reason why this is so important to let us know what your booster status is in case there are changes, and if you're following the news, there's a little concern about a new variant and things like that. If we do need to make further mitigation measures, in the future weeks to come, it's really, really important that we know the level of booster compliance in our community, so that can factor into our decision making. And as usual, unvaccinated individuals need to submit tests every week to avoid fines and holds. And our weekly testing resumed this week from 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, and that will continue in the weeks to come. And as always, remember to report a positive test, symptoms, or upload the vaccination or booster information. I'm going to say one more thing that might sound complicated, so I'm afraid to say it. So we have a new app.
I was just going to mention that, so I'm so glad you're mentioning it.
So maybe you should have said it.
No, perfect.
So in my message today, my email that will go out today, there's a link to upload the new Lewis app, my Lewis app. And so you can follow that, or, I think it's really easy to find if you just search for it in the what is it called on Apple? The Find My, I don't know.
Just the App Store.
The App Store.
I think you just go to the App Store and
any
put
App Store.
My Lewis.
We'll have it, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that everything should be is functionally the same. I've done it. It's really easy to use. It just looks nicer and has more. It's more dynamic, and we'll be able to build out more cool stuff on it over time. But if you're using it using the current app now, everything will be switched over as soon as you upload it and log in. So please do that. So we're ready to introduce our guest.
We're ready to move on to. I just wanted to talk about the app because it is really. And I guess we should also mention, Chris, just when it comes to the app, that you'll also see a changed kind of sense of the My Lewis.
Yeah.
So it changed the app, but people should know that those two are connected. So if you go into My Lewis because you're looking for something on Banner, or you're looking for the directory, you want to see who somebody is that you just heard about, any of those kind of things, any of the students going into My Lewis, they're going to see it look different, but it's the same functionalities there.
So we are really excited to introduce our guest now, Joseph Perruzzi. Joe Perruzzi is the founding head coach of the men's lacrosse team, which is now in its third season. Perruzzi came to Lewis after spending 3 seasons as the defensive coordinator at Belmont Abbey College in Belmont, North Carolina. During his tenure with the Crusaders, he helped guide them to a 38-13 record and back-to-back appearances in the Conference Carolinas Tournament Championship game. And he has a lot of experience leading up to that, I believe at Ohio Wesleyan as well, before going to Belmont. So we were just delighted that he came in to join the Lewis community, and now it's been quite a few years. So welcome, Joe. It's great to be with you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And 4 years have flown by here, but
Yeah.
have really enjoyed my time here, and looking forward to a lot of more future success, we hope.
Yeah. So it's probably rare in a head coach's career to be able to found a program. And I guess that's my first question, is just what is the difference between inheriting a team and starting a team?
Sure. I think with the growth of lacrosse over the course of time in the past 10 years, just Division I, Division II, Division III, I've been fortunate enough to see a lot of coaches do it.
Maybe it is part
it's
common in lacrosse
a
than
little
other
bit
sports,
more just because of the growth of the sport. But seeing a couple coaches do it, in the back of my head, I was always like, that would be kind of cool. And then you see them play their first year, and you're like, oh man, that looks pretty tough. I don't know, And sometimes you inherit a team, and the cupboard's a little more full, right? But the reason I was really attracted to it is just I wanted to establish like the culture that I felt was important, and I felt could make not only align with our vision of being successful on the field, but line up with the vision of the university and the athletic department, and really not just try to have a win at all costs program, but a win the right way type of program. So it was very important that we set the standard for our guys in year one academically. We set the standard for our guys on the field, and we played nationally ranked teams as a first-year program, and people were like, what are you doing, man? You guys are crazy. And, we took some lumps along the way, but we learned a lot about ourselves. We learned a lot that we were actually better than people kind of made us out to be, and that we didn't really let the outside noise guide us. We kind of kept it internally, and we kept pumping our guys with confidence to let them know that they're good enough and that they can compete and succeed at this level. And over the course of time, it's been challenging. COVID certainly didn't make anything easier for us, but our guys have been very resilient. They've been very persistent. So it's been very rewarding now that we're in, my 4th year here and year 3 of the program, to see that, we are having success on the field, we are having success off the field, and we're really trying to make an impact in the community. So it's been an incredibly rewarding process for me.
So Joe, it's amazing to me because I remember when you were in my office and you were interviewing 4 years ago. So it's kind of incredible to think that 4 years has flown by. I remember the first time that I was exposed to lacrosse, which was almost 30 years ago. I was teaching high school at Loyola Academy, and they had a lacrosse team because in my high school we didn't have lacrosse. So I'm guessing there's a lot of viewers who have known nothing about lacrosse. So 30 years ago I was exposed, and I had no idea what it was. I walked up to that fence, and you're looking out, and you're like, what is this? So can you just give us maybe a little history of lacrosse, as well as maybe how you got exposed to it, how you learned about it? Was it in your high school? That whole kind of sense of lacrosse as I think it's now, there's a certain subculture. Like,
sure.
I feel like lacrosse people are lacrosse people.
No doubt.
But if you could talk a little bit about the history of it, and then how that shaped you and what it means here at Lewis.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who have been exposed to it have lived on the East Coast, have ties to the East Coast, whether that's New York, Baltimore, Boston, Philly. Those types of areas are kind of known as a lacrosse hotbed area. So I think that's where a lot of people's familiarity might come from. But in truth, its origin comes from the Native Americans and their culture, and they refer to it as a medicine game, as the creator's game. They used to play the game for miles, and didn't keep score, and there was no equipment, and, they weaved their own sticks out of, from the tree and certain, products they found in their environment to make their own sticks and their equipment. So it really came to the United States from the Indian reservations, in the New York area, and a lot of those Native American reservations had a pretty big, profound impact in that upstate central New York area. And even to this day, some of the best players in the world are coming off of those Native American reservations. And that's just grown so much into the state of New York, into the East Coast. And now we're really, in the past 10, 15, 20 years, seeing it really spill into the Midwest. And I think I have a pretty unique perspective being from Columbus, Ohio, where there are some schools there like Ohio Wesleyan, like Denison University, that have had lacrosse for 40, 50, 60, 70 years. And then there was a lot of places that didn't have it that now do. So I didn't start playing until my freshman year in high school. I was a hockey guy. I was a baseball guy who couldn't hit the curveball. So found my way to a more physical sport, playing football and playing hockey. I kind of naturally gravitated to lacrosse, and probably similar to your experience at Loyola, I found myself on a chain link fence saying, hey, what's going on over there? This looks pretty cool. Yeah. And I got cut from the baseball team my freshman year. And about 2 days later, I was talking to one of my buddies about, hey, how can I play lacrosse? And
so, Joe, yeah. I'm interested in. I want to just go back a little bit to the history. Sure. And the kind of indigenous tribes that had this as kind of a game and a cultural thing, and and it's amazing to me, think of people playing over several miles, and I can picture it in my head, like it there's something that, but is that something that you learned when you became a coach and you started studying it as a coach, Or is this something that is kind of, when somebody starts as a high school player, do you think most coaches explain the history of it? Or they just, like it's X's and O's, or it's like, we're a part of this tradition? When, I guess I'm interested, when did you learn about the history of lacrosse? Do you learn that as a freshman in high school? Or did you learn it when you became an assistant coach and you started saying, what's the background of this?
Yeah, I think when you're a kid, it's just a game to you. You know, I don't think in high school I recognized any of the relevancy of that. I remember having a lacrosse book someone gave to me, and it had some origin and paintings and really talked more about that indigenous culture that it comes from the Native Americans. And I just thought that was really interesting, you know, that we don't tend to think about it like that. So one of the professional lacrosse league, the PLL, I think they've done a pretty tremendous job in the past 3-4 years. They're a very young league. They bought out the old league, the MLL, and they've kind of really commercialized professional lacrosse. They've done a really good job of bringing attention to the indigenous culture that surrounds around lacrosse, and some of the best players in that league are Native American and do come from some of that culture. So bringing that to light and having special weekends, special games, guys wearing different armbands, different colors to represent that, I think is educating our youth about it a lot more. Whereas when I was a youth, I don't know if we had that type of level of education. So I think that's something that's very exciting, as younger players now might be a little more exposed to the origin of the sport.
Like, do you think most of your players that are on the team know that background or not? Like, would our players, I mean, maybe some of them are watching right now and they just learned it, right? Because they're watching their coach on the show. But I mean, do you have a sense of, because as you say, if they're following the professional league, do they get that sense? I mean, where do you think that's at with our players?
Yeah, I think they're certainly aware of it. You know, I think that for us in our program, one of the unique things about us is we just have so many different types of people in our program from all different walks of life and all different backgrounds, and north of the border and West Coast and East Coast and Midwest. And so, you know, I can't speak to every single one of them, but I certainly think that they're aware of that. And I certainly think that there's a level of, you know, we want our players to kind of find peace when they play the game. We want them to enjoy that. And that's kind of why, you know, the Native Americans always referred to it as a medicine game. And, you know, when we have a tough loss and we're licking our wounds, so to speak, and you know, we always try to flip the script on it, like, hey, we get to go out and compete again. We get to go out and do this again. We get to go out and, you know, try to enjoy this and find peace in this. So I do think that there is some level of that medicine game for our players and for our coaches, that we find joy in it, we find peace in it, and I think that that's organic, you know.
Sure. So, and I want you to be able to, but I'm going to just one more follow-up on this, Joe. So for people, again, that don't know much about lacrosse, could you just describe, so you've talked about the history.
Sure.
But could you describe the basic, I mean, like, try to make some analogy. I know you can't draw and do all that kind of stuff, but try to paint a picture for the person who's never sat at that chain link fence and watched it happen. What is lacrosse?
Well, it's a little bit of mix of everything. You know, if I would compare the surface and the field to a football field or a soccer field, very similar in dimensions in that aspect. You get the physicality of hockey. You get to sub on the fly, very similar to hockey. I think that the offensive sets and how we execute and how we try to create space, extremely similar to basketball. If you're familiar with the pick and roll, you come and watch one of our games and you're like, I just saw about 100 pick and rolls. So we do a lot of that. You know, I think that.
Okay, I'm going to stop you, Joe, because you're talking as if everybody knows this game. So people don't even know that people carry a stick. Like, if you've never seen it, like, give me, like, what is the objective?
Sure.
And what do people actually, like, some people, is it like more like a football? Is it more like a, you know, so I mean, just give me the basics.
Okay,
and then,
so that we have a play with a rubber ball. and it hurts. And it hurts pretty bad when you get hit by it. So I'll tell you that.
This is all good
so
stuff.
that's why we wear
For
all
me,
of our.
this is good
That's
stuff.
why we wear all of our equipment. But yeah, we play with lacrosse sticks with a called a lacrosse head that goes on top of it, and our lacrosse shaft. So we screw it right into it. And there's different.
There's a net in there.
There's
carries the
different
ball.
kinds of mesh. There's hard mesh. There's soft mesh. There's certain sticks you can buy with the mesh already in it. Some players like the ball to throw high. Some players like the ball to feel to come out of the head of their stick. Some players play with what we call a lot of whip, where their release point is lower. So the stick is your, that's your baby, right? In baseball, you might, be taking care of your bat, right? And in tennis, you have your racket.
Right.
Golf players are, scrubbing their clubs down every night. Like we have our stick, and some players will take that stick with them on the bus. Some players will go to sleep at night with their stick. Some players take that very, very seriously.
Yeah.
Other guys pull it out of the bag and go and do their thing. They don't invest much time in it. So, the lacrosse stick is obviously the biggest key to how we transfer the ball and how we catch and throw, very similar to, catching and passing a basketball or catching and passing a football. Ours is done through the vehicle of our stick.
Right.
So, the objective defensively is don't let the ball go in the back of your net, and offensively we want to score more times than the other team.
Right.
So the uniqueness of it, of the basketball concepts of how we attack, you also kind of have the soccer element where you have the goalie stopping the ball, right? You don't have that element in basketball.
exactly.
So you have the goalie stopping the ball from going into the net. So it is.
And it's a very exciting game. I mean, I must say, when I first was sitting at the, it's like you said, like hockey, fast moving. And again, unlike soccer, a lot more scoring, right?
sure.
I mean, not as much scoring as basketball, but a lot more scoring. So
Sure.
there's that back and forth flow. Chris, you might have some questions. I mean, I've been hogging this. I'm sorry, I'm being a hog.
I
Go
knew
ahead.
this was going to happen today. So just a reminder that there's an email address on the screen, askus@lewisu.edu. If anyone would like to ask Joe a question, we can filter it through. I want to go back to you were talking about the team and how diverse it is in terms of, and maybe just talk a little bit more about that. And maybe, here's another thing that we've never talked about when we've had coaches on this show is how do you recruit players? And, so maybe start with that, and then how do we, what's unique about our team in terms of where our students are coming from? And
Sure. Well, I think I had the unique challenge of trying to figure out what a Lewis kid is. And other coaches here that maybe took a job and inherited another program from a different coach could look and see, oh, I can understand why he recruited this player from this area, has this GPA, fits this demographic. Obviously, we did not have that. So when we first started the program, very simply put, we were looking for great students and great lacrosse players that were athletes, right? And I think that as we learned more about the university, as I had more communication with other coaches here, and I think our coaches here are just absolutely phenomenal at what they do. So I really tried to kind of follow their blueprint a little bit, because I was like, well, if they go to the national tournament every year, I should probably kind of try to do what what some of these programs are already doing. But I think we had to kind of forge, what does a Lewis lacrosse player look like? And I think Lewis, in its identity as a LaSallian university, is offering education to everyone. That's our standard. That's the core value of us. So I think that the first thing that comes to mind when I think of our team is just that level of inclusion. The fact that we have players from different backgrounds, from private schools, from public schools, from the West Coast, from the East Coast, from Canada, and they all come here because they want an elite education and they want to play at the highest level. And they were very intrigued with the fact of, hey, I'm looking at this university and I believe that everything is there, and they believed in me and my staff that what we could do for them, and they bought into our message. So that was very rewarding, because when you have players at a first-year program coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada, Arizona, British Columbia, taking a pretty big leap of faith on the message that we were giving them, and it doesn't always work out, right? So the fact that we've had success here, the fact that we've won a lot more games than we've lost, the fact that we're nationally ranked as a third-year program, That's something that we told our players that we were striving to do, that we wanted to win a GLVC championship, and we wanted to do it in your first 4 years. We didn't want you to pave the way to watch somebody else hold up the trophy. You know, we were very adamant on being competitive immediately. And I think what we really tried to educate our players on is it's very easy to talk about that sitting in my office in the recruiting process. And then you get here and it's like, okay, well, now it's time to do that work.
Yeah.
And 6 a.m. comes pretty early sometimes. And those 7:30 a.m. lifts come early. And, you know, in our fall season, we get up early on Saturdays and practice. And we make it difficult for our guys. We challenge our guys. You know, when we get out there in January and it's 15 degrees and
a little also different from coming from Arizona or
sure,
Las Vegas.
And believe it or not, a lot of our Western Canadians, they're used to the rain. They're not used to the snow and cold.
Yeah.
You know, their weather in BC is a lot like Seattle, so it's a little chilly for some of them here too, believe it or not. But, you know, I think our players understood that. And we didn't lie to them about it. Hey, it's going to be a little chilly here in the winters, right? Like we're not... You know, we didn't sugarcoat that, but they bought into that, and the weather wasn't the reason that they were here. You know, they're here because, again, they want that great education, and they believed in what we were selling as that, hey, we can be nationally competitive, you know, and I've been fortunate to be really nationally competitive at every program I've really ever been at. So I was confident that we could do it here, but, you know, still being able to do it has a lot of challenges, and I think our players have shown not only they have great character and they work really hard, but when their back's against the wall, they're gonna keep pushing and they're gonna keep fighting. And ultimately, what we teach and what we teach our players here for college lacrosse or college athletics in general, we want them to be able to apply that in the game of life once they walk across the stage here at Lewis. So I really feel like a lot of the lessons and the values we're installing in our young men are far more applicable after their time at Lewis than maybe, you know, coming back in the fourth quarter to beat Maryville, right? That's all well and good, but what did we learn from that 8-0 run and that big comeback, that if we stay together, we stay persistent, we stick to the plan, and we don't get down on each other, that we can accomplish anything that we want. So I'm excited for some of these guys and the rewards that they're already seeing and some of their hard work paying off, but we certainly recognize that we've got a lot more work to do and a lot more that we want to accomplish.
So you've had some big successes this year, and you just bragged about the win over Maryville, which is awesome.
Subtle brag.
That was very subtle.
I love that. I love that. And I want to hear, you know, there's some other big wins this year, but I also would love to have you talk a little bit about, so maybe a couple of what have been the high points of this year, and I know that you've had a couple, and then remainder of the season, are there some key games you look at in terms of getting from here to where you really hope you can end the season? And what is the goal this year?
Sure. Well, we want to win a GLVC championship. We want to be the best. We train and we try to push our players to practice to be their best every day. We try to hold them to that standard, and some really, really good teams in our conference. But we started off the year with an upset on the road victory at Seton Hill University out in Greensburg, PA. They came into the season as the number 4 ranked team in the nation. We were able to upset them 14-13. We were pretty much up and in command the whole game. They came back and gave us a scare, but we carried that over into a win at home versus Wheeling. We had a pretty tough loss on the road at Mercyhurst, a school I know you're familiar with.
Very.
And they're pretty darn good. They've been in the national tournament the past 4 or 5 years. So we got humbled there a little bit, and then and progressed on and had a really big upset win at Maryville. I don't know if it's an upset. We were ranked, but we were down most of the game. We came back, had a huge run. We were, down 11-6, and we kind of blinked, and we were up 14-11. Went on a big 8-0 run there on the road again. Showed kind of our resiliency and our persistence, and then started this big long. We had 4 games in 10 days. Unfortunately, we dropped the first one at home at Lake Erie, which was a good learning experience on the road again, a young team, and just didn't really play to our capabilities. And we learned that day you can be humbled at any given day. And we got back to the drawing board and were able to rattle off 3 straight last week, playing Wednesday, Sunday, Tuesday. So it was a little extra pressure when I found out I was coming on the show. So I wanted to try to hopefully put a couple wins together.
Exactly.
So we'd have something good.
Credit.
We'd have something good to talk about. So we're on a 3-game winning streak at 6-2 right now. So we're just on the outside of the USILA coaches poll. we're getting some votes there, but we are still 19th in the country in the U.S. Lax Magazine poll and 15th in the country in the Inside Lacrosse poll. So we're excited that we're still, some lacrosse media still feel like, we're a top 15, top 20 program. So we're excited about that, but looking forward.
So give me like 2 games that you're really, I know every coach is like, I got to prepare for the next game, but then they also try to not get ahead of themselves, but there's always like that 1 or 2 games out there that are like, this is going to be an important game if we're going to achieve what we want to achieve this year.
Well, it just so happens that it is the next one. We are playing UND on the road at UND. They are undefeated right now, 7-0 or 8-0. We've never beat Indy. We were 0-2 against them last year. Played them tough both games, but they're the cream of the crop in our conference. So we welcome that opportunity. We're going to play them on the road and in a tough environment there. So we're excited about that. I think our kids have been. We understand why we play the February and early March that we do, and why we play Mercyhurst, and why we play Seton Hill, and why we play Maryville out of conference when we know we have to play them again in conference. We play these games so that we're ready for conference play when it comes, and we know Indy's coming at some point in time or another, so we might as well play teams that we feel like are just as good or equal to their level. And see where we're at, so that if we're not up to par, we can be ready. And if we are up to par, we know that and can plan accordingly. So we've challenged ourselves in the preseason to prepare for that. And then, I think Lindenwood would probably be the other one that is on the calendar. April 9th, I believe that game is. So with those teams, I think Indy's 3rd in the nation right now. I believe Lindenwood's 10th or 11th. Those would be the 2 top teams in our conference that we've got circled. But we recognize that one game at a time, everybody's good, and we're not trying to get ahead of ourselves, but we've given our guys a couple days off the last few days to hit the reset button, and we're going to get back after it tomorrow and get ready for UND next Wednesday.
So you've said a lot of things since we've been talking about your approach to coaching, and the wisdom that you impart and the culture. You talked about building a culture at the beginning. I just wonder if you want to say anything else about kind of your overall approach to coaching or your philosophy of coaching.
I think it's very relationship driven. I want my players to see me in a light where I'm just not a guy with a whistle around my neck every day. I want them to be able to knock on my door and say, hey coach, something's going on in my personal life. Hey coach, I'm not doing great in this class, and I should have studied more, and I need your help. Or, hey coach, me and my girlfriend are on the rocks right now. I'm not doing so hot. And those types of conversations allow me to be closer with my players, allow them to understand that they can trust me, that they can rely on me, and that, anything that's going on in their personal life, knowing that allows me to coach them better, allows me to communicate with them better. And that trust that we've built, you see it in the 4th quarter when you're down 2 goals and you're like, hey man, go make a play. This is what we're running. Go do it. And you look him in the eyes, and he knows I believe in him, and vice versa, right? So I think the relationships are so pivotal. Being a younger coach, coming here as an assistant, when you're an assistant coach in your 20s, a lot of the time you end up kind of being in that big brother role.
Yeah, sure.
And now that I've graduated to dad, right, and my assistants are more in that big brother role, I still feel like it's really important for me to connect with my players on a personal and individual level. And we spend a lot of time with our players in the recruiting process. We clear our schedule, we clear our day to spend the whole day with them. And we prefer to tour our players rather than admissions, just because we get to spend more time with them and get to know them and get to interact with them more. And I think that a lot of our recruits will be like, I've been to 5 campuses and no other head coach has done this with me. And that makes us unique, because we are unique in how we run our program, I believe. So I think that the relationship angle is something that we value higher than other places. And I think it's created a culture in our program where not only are our players more connected, but our staff is more connected with our players. And there's a higher trust there than I think the average program. And because of that, we're able to work really well together and try to accomplish our goals to the best of our ability, because that trust is there and that belief is there. And with that, now is coming confidence. Yeah. And that's been really exciting. So I never want, my players know when I blow the whistle and say, hey, let's go, that they know I'm coach, and they know that in the moment, that respect is there. But, I always say, like, the other 22 hours of the day,
Yeah.
we're not on the field.
We're in a relationship.
Yeah, I want you to know that you can come talk to me and that I'm here for you and that we want you to have the best experience possible. And a lot of that is driven from that relationship.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Thank you.
So any last minute things you want to like share? Because I think we're wrapping
Yeah.
up. So things that you either, want people to know about lacrosse, about Lewis lacrosse specifically. I don't know. Is there anything, last comments?
Sure. Well, as you guys are probably well aware, Chicago weather can be a little bit chilly in February and sometimes early March. So we have a big stretch of home games coming down the stretch here. Should be a lot nicer weather out. Next Saturday, the 26th, not this weekend, but the following weekend, we're hosting Walsh University at noon. And that will actually be our youth lacrosse day. So we're having a lot of local youth players and clubs coming out in the community, get them on campus and get them checking out, the only D2 program here in the Chicagoland area. And then I believe we have April 2nd, we are home with Rockhurst. That's an 11 a.m. start. And then the end of it, I believe, is April 23rd. We are playing Maryville at home. I believe that's a 3 p.m. start. So we'd love to get some more people out there. Sure. The weather's getting warmer, and it's I think the only sport here on campus where you can hit somebody right in the chest and knock them right on their back, and it's completely legal. So we'd love to get some more fans out there and some more people hooting and hollering for us and making some noise as the weather gets nicer and as we try to make a run here in GLVC play.
That's great. That's great, Joe. It's so such a pleasure to have you here. I just can't say grateful for who you are as a person, your coaching philosophy, the way you have developed this team over 4 years. And you said this, but it is really great to win, and we have a winning tradition here at Lewis. But it's even more important to graduate, student athletes who go out into the world and make the world a better place. That's what we're really focused on. So want to thank everybody for joining us today. Thank Coach Perruzzi for being here with us and for his team and our whole really athletic program and all of our coaches. So hope you have a really great week. Enjoy the rest of St. Patrick's Day. Be safe, stay healthy, and God bless you and your family.